దూర విద్యా విధానంలో డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ దేశంలోనే మొట్టమొదటి సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం. దాదాపు 2.5 దశాబ్దాలుగా దూర విద్యా విధానం ద్వారా కంప్యూటర్ కోర్సును అనుసంధానం చేస్తూ బీఏ, బీకామ్, బీఎస్సీ డిగ్రీ కోర్సులను అందిస్తోంది. పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ స్థాయి, డిగ్రీ, డిప్లొమా స్థాయి కోర్సులను ఔత్సాహికులైన విద్యార్థులకు అందిస్తోంది. డెవలప్మెంట్ స్టడీస్లో సెంటర్ ఫర్ ఎకనామిక్స్ అండ్ సోషల్ స్టడీస్ ద్వారా ఎంఫిల్, పీహెచ్డీతో పాటు విశ్వవిద్యాలయమే స్వయంగా దూర విద్యా విధాన అంశంపైన పీహెచ్డీ వంటి పరిశోధన కోర్సులు ప్రవేశపెట్టింది. సుమారు 4.5 లక్షల మంది విద్యార్థులు ఈ విశ్వవిద్యాలయం నుంచి ఉన్నత విద్యావకాశాలు పొందుతున్నారు. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం స్థానికంగా స్వయం బోధనా పద్ధతిలో ముద్రణ రూపంలో రూపొందించిన కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అందిస్తోంది. కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అధ్యయనానికి సహకరించే విధంగా రేడియో, టెలివిజన్ పాఠ్యాంశాల ఆధారంగా కార్యక్రమాలు ప్రసారం చేస్తోంది. అధ్యయన కేంద్రాల ద్వారా ఏర్పాటు చేసే సలహా సంసర్గ తరగతులు, సైన్స్ ప్రాక్టికల్ సౌకర్యాలు విద్యార్థులకు స్వయం అధ్యయనానికి ఒక చక్కటి అవకాశం. ఇవి విద్యార్థి సమీపంలో ఉండే అధ్యయన కేంద్రం నుంచే పొందొచ్చు.
Hello, Doordarshan viewers and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University students. Namaskar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Department of Chemistry producing a teleconference program on molecules of life. This program is from this topic is from the MSc Chemistry first year paper 4 and also the part of Science and Technology UG first year. Now this program is of 60 minutes. First 50 minutes we are discussing about the topic. This topic will be explained by the two eminent speakers, and next 10 minutes phone in program. In the time students may call to the university and ask their doubts and rectify them. And you may call the following phone numbers: 040 270 31431, 270 31432, 270-31-433. To explain this topic, we have two eminent speakers here. Those are J. Mohan Babu Garu, Assistant Professor, Nizam College, Department of Chemistry, and B. Rajkumar Garu, Counselor, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Now, coming to topic, molecules of life. We know that biomolecules. This topic covers what are the biological process, what are the mechanisms, and that. I am going to the first question to the J. Mohan Babu Garu. Sir, please introduce the topic to the viewers about the topic.
So, biomolecules. So, actually the living systems are made up of many biomolecules, means many molecular systems. So, these biomolecules are very essential for the life processes like metabolism and like cell signaling and like some other biological related processes. So, these are very essential for the life processes. So, we need to study about all these biological molecules which are essential for the life processes and the metabolical processes. So, most of the biomolecules are the proteins, amino acids and lipids and nucleic acids and fats and enzymes and the hormones. So, these are the very essential biomolecules which are play a very important role in the biological processes. So, actually here the carbohydrates. So, carbohydrates are very essential for the food material, means the carbohydrates used as a food materials, and the proteins. So, proteins are the fuels, means these acts as a fuels, means they supply the energy to the living systems. And next, the nucleic acids. So, nucleic acids are very essential for the carrying the hereditary characters from one generation to the another generation. And next, hormones. So hormones plays a very important role in the growing of the cells and the tissues in the human beings. Next, the vitamins. Vitamins require very small amount to the human beings. So these are supplied from the outside of the human body. And next, the enzymes. So enzymes are the very essential because the macromolecules, right? The macromolecules are converted into smaller molecules, means the micromolecules. So this conversion is takes place in the presence of enzymes. So all these are the micromolecules and the macromolecules are essential for the life processes.
Okay. Next, Rajkumar garu, what are the carbohydrates? Explain the role of carbohydrates in life.
Okay. So the word carbohydrate actually indicates that it is hydrates of carbon. So the general term is given because in the initial days, whatever the molecules discovered, they follow a single molecular formula, that is CnH2O taken N. So this generalized molecular formula is obeyed by many of the carbohydrates which are discovered in the initial days. That's why they have given the definition. But actually many of those will not obey this rule, and some other molecules which are not actually carbohydrates, but they do follow this molecular formula. So that's why we have to give a specific definition for carbohydrates. So that specific definition is the optically active polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones are called as carbohydrates, or the compounds which upon hydrolysis produce these type of optically active polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones are also called as carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates can also be called as sugars. Why? Because some of the carbohydrates taste sweet. Okay, and in Greek word you have given the name, that is saccharides. So carbohydrates also called as saccharides because in Greek saccharon means sugar. Okay, so that's why this is the general introduction. So the carbohydrates may be classified into different types based on the hydrolysis reaction. Okay, so the carbohydrates which upon hydrolysis give only many number of monosaccharide units, they are called as polysaccharides, or the carbohydrates which upon hydrolysis will give only few numbers, that is 2 to 10 number of monosaccharide units, they are called as oligosaccharides. And the carbohydrates which are already simple in nature and they do not further hydrolyze to more simple molecules, so they are called as monosaccharides. Okay, and depending upon their nature or their interaction with Fehling solution and Tollens reagent, they can be further classified into reducing sugars and non-reducing sugars. So reducing sugars means these sugars which reduce the Tollens reagent and Fehling solution. So these are called reducing sugars. So all the monosaccharides are reducing sugars, and some disaccharides in which the reducing part, that means the functional group, the carbonyl group which is aldehyde or ketone, is readily available, that is not involved in the formation of glycosidic bond, they are called as reducing sugars. Okay, and other carbohydrates in which the carbonyl functional group is involved in the glycosidic bond formation and there is no availability of free carbonyl function, such groups such molecules will not reduce Tollens solution or Fehling solution. So that's why they are called as non-reducing sugars. Okay, so let's see about the basic classification of carbohydrates, that is monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. So if you come to monosaccharides, okay, these are simple molecules optically active polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones. Okay, these will not further undergo hydrolysis. Okay, so the most common examples are glucose, fructose, ribose, like that. And these monosaccharides can be further classified into different types based on the number of carbon atoms present in that and based on the functional group. Okay, so based on the number of carbons present in that, you can give the names as triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose and heptose. Okay, and based on the functional group, you can call it as triose, that is aldotriose or ketotriose. Okay, based on the functional group, if the number of carbons are 4 and the functional group is aldehyde, you can call it as aldotetrose, and if the number of carbons are 4 and the functional group is ketone, you can call it as aldoketose. Okay, likewise aldohexose, ketohexose, okay, aldoheptose, ketoheptose, like that are there. Okay, next coming to the properties of monosaccharides. Okay, so the general monosaccharides we have known are glucose and fructose, okay, which are known for us, which are sweets or which are sugars present in many sweets and cool drinks and fruits and honey, like that one. Okay, so these two are 6-member compounds, 6-member carbons containing compounds. That means they are aldohexoses and ketohexose. The glucose is a aldohexose and fructose is a ketohexose. Okay, so and the definition, in the definition itself I have told you that the compounds, these carbohydrate compounds are having optically active, that means they are having chiral centers. Okay, so they are having chiral centers means they are optically active, they can be rotate the plane polarizer light into different directions. That means if they are rotating the light into clockwise or right side, they can be called as dextrorotatory, or left side they can be called as levorotatory. Okay, they show optical activity. And based on this, so if you see the structure of glucose, so glucose is having 6 carbon atoms. That means it is having many number of optical centers. Okay, so if you consider this is a structure of glucose, so the glucose is having approximately 4 optical active centers. The structure is this one. The glucose having 4 optically active centers, they are chiral centers. So as 4 chiral centers are there, they can be exist in many number of optical isomers. Okay, the possibility of existing a lot of number of optical isomers are there. Okay, and that means they are showing stereoisomerism. And next case, in the carbohydrates also shows some other isomerism, that is epimerism. Okay, the epimerism means the carbohydrates which are having same structure, that means almost all the structure is same, but they have a different configuration at only one carbon atom. Okay, that means only one carbon atom, the configuration is different, and the remaining part is all the same. So such type of molecules are called as epimers. So in the example, if you see the structure of glucose, the D-glucose and D-mannose, those two are epimers. So they have same structure at all the carbon centers, but the difference is at second carbon only. At the second carbon, in case of glucose, the hydroxyl group is right side. In case of mannose, it is left side. So this type of compounds which are having same configuration remain totally, but the configuration is different at only one carbon center. Such molecules are called as epimers, and the criteria is called as epimerism, and the enzyme required for the conversion is epimerase. Okay, so the glucose and the glucose in solution state, it will exist 2 forms. So that is glucose in solution state converted into alpha glucose and beta glucose. This is because in case of solution, so the OH group which is there on 5th carbon will attack on the nucleophilic center, that is an aldehydic carbon, and forms a cyclic structure. Okay, in the formation of this cyclic structure, there exists the generation of new chiral center at the first carbon. So the first carbon is having new chiral center. So because of this new chiral center, there exists the possibility of 2 configuration. That means at the C1, the OH group may be right side or left side. Okay, based on this, you can give the names as alpha glucose and beta glucose. Okay, alpha glucose means the OH is right side, or in case of 6-member cyclic structure, the OH is downside. So this is indicated as alpha glucose. Okay, and if the OH on the first carbon is upward or left side, this is indicated as beta glucose. Okay, so similarly, you can see the structure of fructose also. So fructose is a keto sugar. That means it is a ketohexose. It is having ketone functional group. Okay, it also exists, shows a linear structure, and it also shows optical rotation, and when it is taken into solution, that is water, it forms a ring structure. So the ring structure is formed because of the attack of OH group on the 5th carbon, which attacks on the carbonyl center, that is there on the 2nd carbon. So it forms a 5-member ring only. If you see in case of glucose, it is a 6-member ring, but in case of fructose, it is only 5-member ring. This is also called as Furanose ring. Okay, so because of this ring structure, here also exists a new chiral center. at the second carbon. Okay, at the second carbon there exists a new chiral center. So here also the formation of the possibility of two configurations. So if the second carbon, the OH is on the right side, that is alpha fructose, and it is left side, it is beta fructose. Okay, if you see the structure you will understand. So the CH2OH is upward and OH is downward in the 5-member ring structure, that is alpha fructofuranose. In case of the other one, CH2OH is downside and OH is outside, upward, that is beta D-glucofructofuranose. Okay, this is about the monosaccharides. Next, coming to oligosaccharides. So oligosaccharides means itself, these are the molecules which upon hydrolysis, upon acid hydrolysis, they produce 2 to 10 number of monosaccharide units. Okay, so based on the number of monosaccharide units they are generating, you can classify them as dimer, trimer, tetramer, like that. Okay, so the most simple ones are dimers. The dimer means are disaccharide. Okay, the disaccharide means which upon acid hydrolysis they produce 2 monosaccharide units. Okay, so the most common examples are sucrose, and that is maltose and lactose. So if you see the structures individually, so first look at the structure of sucrose. The sucrose is composed of glucose plus fructose. That means the hydrolysis of sucrose will produce glucose and fructose. The sucrose is also known as common table sugar. Okay, the common sugar which you are using in your home needs, that is sucrose only. So the sucrose, the structure of sucrose having 2 units, that is glucose and fructose units. So the glucose unit is, it is in the form of alpha configuration. That means alpha D glucose binds with beta D fructose. So the binding takes place at C1 of alpha glucose interact with C2 of beta fructose. So you have already seen that C1 of alpha glucose means that is nothing but carbonyl center. Okay, C2 of fructose means that is also nothing but C double bond O functional center. So these two centers are involved in the glycosidic linkage formation. So that's why as these two functional groups are involved in the cycle, the bond formation, there is no availability of free carbonyl function. That means reducing nature is absent here. So they are called as non-reducing sugar. Okay, the sucrose is non-reducing sugar. Next, if you see maltose, so the maltose is made up of glucose units. So 2 glucose units, 2 alpha D glucose units are combined to give maltose. So these 2 units are linked together with C1 of one glucose unit with C4 of another glucose unit. That means the C1 of one glucose unit is binding to the 4th carbon of another glucose unit. That means the second glucose unit, in case of second glucose unit if you see, so there is a chance of carbonyl center at the first carbon. The first carbon is free, which is not involved in the glycosidic bond. So this sugar, this disaccharide may act as reducing sugar. Okay. So next, if you see the lactose, lactose is also known as milk sugar. So the lactose which is commonly present in the milk, so it is milk sugar. So it is having 2 monomers, that is galactose and glucose. So beta D galactose and beta D glucose, those 2 combine to form a lactose structure. So in lactose the linkage, the glycosidic linkage occurs between C1 of galactose with C4 of glucose. So as the C1 of glucose unit is free, that means the carbonyl center is free in this case also. That's why it can reduce the toluenes and Fehling solutions, and it can be called as reducing sugar. Okay. So this is about oligosaccharides, that is disaccharides and the oligosaccharides. So next, coming to polysaccharides. So polysaccharides are the carbohydrates which upon hydrolysis will produce many number of monosaccharide units. Okay. So they are hydrolysis producing many number of monosaccharide units, and the units, that means based on the nature of the monosaccharide units they are producing, they can be called as homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. That means homopolysaccharides upon hydrolysis produce only single type of monomer units. That means they are simply polymers of one monosaccharide unit. But in case of heteropolysaccharides, they produce more than one type of monosaccharide units. Okay, and most commonly known homopolysaccharides are starch, cellulose, and glycogen. Okay, these are commonly occurring in human and other life systems. Okay, let us see individually. Okay, so first, if you see about the structure of starch, so the starch which is readily available in plants, so it is composes of main food source for human being. Okay, so we all know that in a photosynthetic reaction, the plants produce glucose from CO2 and in presence of sunlight. Okay, they produce glucose which is also a monosaccharide. So this glucose, by undergoing different chemical changes in the plant, can get converted into starch which is a polymer of glucose itself. Okay, it is undergoing polymerization and produces starch. That starch is stored in different parts of the plant. Likewise, if you see the cereals, just the granules, the rice, whatever you are eating, the rice, the barley, and maize, zea maize, like that, and potato, tubers of like that. So all those bulbs or everything, they are storing starch as a food material. Okay, the plants will store starch in their that is seeds, likewise cereals, and bulbs in the potatoes. Okay, those we are consuming. So we are mainly depends upon the plants for this starch, and this starch is composed of main food sources for human being. Okay, and this starch, if you observe the chemical structure of starch, this starch is composed of two units, that is amylose and amylopectin. Okay, amylose is a water soluble component and which is made up of alpha D glucose unit. So it is a linear chain polymer of alpha D glucose units, and this glycosidic linkage takes place at C1 and C4. That means first carbon of one glucose will bind with fourth carbon of another glucose. Likewise, they form a sequence, that is linear chain. So the amylose constitute 15 to 20% of starch only, and generally this is 200 to 1000 units of glucose will form this amylose. And next unit is amylopectin. So this amylopectin is insoluble matter. Okay, it consists of 80 to 85% of the starch. So this amylopectin is a polymer of glucose, but it is a branched chain one. That means, so it is having the chains of glucose unit, but the branching takes place. So see, just like amylose, it is also forming the chain structure with C1 C4 linkage. The glycosidic linkage takes place at C1 and C4 carbons, and but the branching is a extra feature here in this case of amylopectin. So the branching takes place at C1 to C6. That means sixth carbon of one glucose unit will bind with first carbon of another chain. So this forms branching. Just you can see in the picture, the branching is like this. Okay. Next, if you see the cellulose, okay, cellulose is a structural material of the plant. So cellulose is present only in case of plants. It is absent in human or animals. Okay, human beings or animals. So it is abundant in plants, and it is a skeletal structure. That means the cell wall of plant cells is made up of cellulose. And you all know that the cotton fibers, okay, the cotton fibers are also made up of cellulose. And this cellulose we are using, or we are wearing cloths or fabric, all are made up of cellulose only. Okay, so this cellulose structure, it is made up of glucose only. Cellulose is also a polymer of glucose, but the difference is here, it is a linear chain polymer, but it is polymer of beta D glucose. So whereas amylose, it is a polymer of alpha glucose units, but here it is a beta units. So the beta D glucose units are linked in a chain manner to produce cellulose. So if you see the structure, it is C1 C4 linkage. Okay, the linkage beta glucose units are linked with C1 and C4 to form the cellulose structure. Okay, this is about cellulose. And next, coming to glycogen. Okay, glycogen is also called as human starch or animal starch. Why? Because just like that, the plants are storing their starch. Okay, similar way, the whatever glucose we are taking from food, it is stored as, that is glycogen, in our liver, muscles, and lipid tissues. Okay, adipose tissues. So muscles, liver will store this glycogen. Okay, if you see when you take food, so it undergoes digestion process, it immediately produces glucose units, that is energy. So glucose units. So immediately after taking food, the release of glucose increases in blood. So the blood glucose level will get increased. So that excess of glucose will get converted into glycogen and stored in the liver and muscles and lipid tissues like that. So as the glucose is converting into glycogen and storing, so just like plants are converting their glucose into starch, here we are converting glucose into glycogen. So that's why it is also called as the animal starch. Okay. Next, whenever the glucose levels in our blood decreases, okay, automatically the stored glycogen will get converted into glucose by some enzymatic actions. It converted into glucose units. Those glucose units will liberated into blood and maintains the blood glucose level. Okay. Next, if you see heteropolysaccharides, these are all homopoly. And next, coming to heteropolysaccharides, so these are common examples are mucopolysaccharides. So they are composed of different units, not same units. So the glucuronic acid and N-acetyl D-glucosamine, okay, like that materials combine to form these mucopolysaccharides or hyaluronic acids. Okay. So this is about the carbohydrates, the structural features and things.
Okay. Okay, sir. What is the carbohydrate metabolism?
Okay. So this is about all the, like, just we have seen about the structure and what are the main features of carbohydrates. And if you consume this, so already I have told you that the carbohydrates is the main food source for human being. So when you consume these carbohydrates, it gets, first of all, the rice whatever you have taken is nothing but starch. It is nothing but a polysaccharide, homopolysaccharide. So when you consume this, first of all, it undergoes a digestion process where the different enzymes acts upon the starch material and they degrade the starch into simpler molecules. So they are nothing but simpler monosaccharides units. So starch will simply get converted into glucose or fructose like that. So the most common material is starch will convert into glucose. So this is simple digestion process. Next, after digestion, so nothing but glycogen metabolism occurs. So the glycogen metabolism, just now I have told you that glycogen, whenever the blood glucose level is increased, okay, glucose level in the blood is increased, automatically the human body gets some response and it produces some enzymes. They convert that glucose into glycogen, which is a polymer of glucose. So they convert the glycogen, and glycogen it gets stored in the liver and tissues, okay, muscles and fat tissues. So and when the blood glucose level is decreased, then the glycogen will degrade into glucose and it is gets supplied to the bloods. Sorry, it is released into the blood. So like that, the blood glucose level will maintain. So that is glycogen metabolism. So next, coming to the glucose, so the degradation of glucose. Okay, so the glucose is a main energy unit which further degrades into different molecules and produces ATP. So adenosine triphosphate. So which is the direct energy form. Okay, the energy form in any animals or human beings is nothing but ATPs. Okay, the net energy is ATPs only. So the glucose, first it will undergo a process called glycolysis. Okay, so it undergo glycolysis. In glycolysis, one glucose unit will undergo different chemical reactions which are catalyzed by different enzymes and produces 2 pyruvic acid units. Okay, so glucose will get converted into 2 pyruvic acid units. In the whole process, 4 ATPs are released, but in that only 2 are already consumed for this process. That's why the net result is 2 ATPs only. Next, the formed pyruvic acid units, the 2 pyruvic acid units will enter into Krebs cycle, or nothing, it is also called as citric acid cycle or tricarboxylic acid cycle. Okay, when it enters into TCA cycle. Okay, so the pyruvic acid unit first convert into acetyl CoA, and that acetyl CoA is converted into citric acid, and again it undergoes different cyclic processes and comes back to citric acid. So during this cyclic process, it undergo the several different reactions and which are catalyzed by different enzymes, and at the end of each cycle they produce 36 ATPs. Okay, overall you will get 36 ATPs from this Krebs cycle. So totally, if you see about the glycolysis and Krebs cycle, the totally one glucose unit will produce total 38. That means actually it produces 40 ATPs, but 2 ATPs are consumed in the glycolysis process. The net result is 38 ATPs. So directly the glucose produces overall 38 ATPs, which are directly energy forms. Okay, direct energy units of human
38.
body or living organism.
Okay.
So this is completely
Therefore, the carbohydrates are undergoing metabolism, it produces energy. The energy is useful for the biological process.
Biological
Okay,
process.
thank you, sir. Next, Mohan Garu, what are the proteins? As you said that proteins and amino acids are the biomolecules.
Yes.
What are the proteins and amino acids? What is the relation between them?
Yeah, actually already we told that the amino acids, carbohydrates and proteins and the nucleic acid, all these are the raw materials for the human body. Because if you assume that our human body is a factory or the industry, so it needs a fuel for the production. Same thing, all these materials, biomolecules acts as a fuels for the human body factory. So here already we discussed about the carbohydrates, and the next raw material is the proteins. So before going to proteins, so you have to learn about the amino acids, because the amino acids are the basic units for the proteins, because the proteins are the polypeptides of the amino acids. So amino acids, so what are the amino acids first? So amino acids are the it is a organic molecules or the organic molecules which are having the amino as well as the acid groups in the same molecule. For example, amino NH2 group and the acid carboxylic acid group COOH group. So this is called carboxylic acid group. So this is called the amino acids, and these amino acids are the building blocks for the proteins. And these amino acids are classified into different types based on their structure. These are classified into 3 types. So actually it is having the acid as well as the amino group. So if the equal number of the acid and the base groups, base means NH2 groups and the acid means carboxylic groups. So if it is having the both groups in equal manner, so it is called the neutral amino acids. And if the more number of, if it is having the more number of acid groups, carboxylic acid groups, that is called acidic amino acids. And if it is having the more number of amino groups, so it is called as the basic amino acids. So this is based on their structures. So there are in nature there are 21 amino acids are there, and based on the availability of the amino acids, these are classified into 2 types. One is the essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. So what are the essential amino acids? So essential amino acids means, so these essential amino acids are essential amino acids are which are taken from the outside to our human body, because these are not synthesized in our body. So we need to take these molecules from the outside in the form of food or in the form of medicine or in the form of any drugs. And the non-essential amino acids, so these are synthesized in our body. So there are 9 essential amino acids are there, like histidine and leucine, isoleucine and methionine, phenylalanine and threonine and tryptophan and valine. So these are the essential amino acids which are taken from the outside. And these amino acids are the, already we told that the amino acids are the building blocks for the proteins. So what are the proteins? So proteins are the polymeric structure of the polypeptides of the amino acids. So these the main source for the proteins are the cereals and milk and cheese and fish and peanuts and meat. So all these are the sources for the proteins. Means these all these things, all these materials supplies energy to the human body for the healthy growth and for the survival of the cells or the tissues.
Okay.
So and these proteins, actually the protein word, it is derived from the Greek word, that is proteos. Proteos means the primary or the prelims. So proteos means the primary essential thing to the body. And actually the structure of the protein, actually the structure of the protein, it is having or it is appears like 4 structures, like primary structure, secondary structure, and tertiary and the quaternary structure. So what is the primary structure? So primary structure, it is having the linear shape, means all one amino acid joined together with the another amino acid in a sequential manner, means in a systematic manner. So it is called the primary structure. And the secondary structure, so secondary structure, the 2 amino acids joined together with the hydrogen bonding are the disulfide bonds, So and it forms the spherical shape. So this is called the secondary structure. And the tertiary structure, so tertiary structure, it don't have any the regular bonding, and it don't have the any regular folding, and it is have some the zigzag arrangement, and it is appears 3D shape. So it is tertiary structure. And a quaternary structure means the one tertiary structure and another tertiary structure joined together with the bonding. So this is called the quaternary structure, and it is more complex compared to the primary, secondary, tertiary. The quaternary structure is more complex, and the arrangement of the looping of the proteins, the arrangement of the proteins is in a sequential manner, in a regular manner, and this regularity is very essential, and the sequence is in a systematic manner. If the sequence is alters, then it leads to the disease, or the dysfunctioning of the proteins. For example, in a hemoglobin, the sequence is valine, histidine, leucine, proline, and glutamine, and lysine. This is the sequence. So if any one of the amino acid is lost, or if any one of the amino acid is misplaced from this sequence, so it leads to the sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia means it is a bloodless condition. So this sequence is very important, and this is converts, means this is very important for the functioning determination. And next, the proteins. So proteins, already we told that the proteins are the polypeptides of the amino acids, and this protein deficiency, actually the proteins are essential for the cell growth and the tissue growth. But if the protein deficiencies occurs, then it leads to some disease that is called the kwashiorkor or the mental retardation. Mental retardation means some mental disorders will be occurred, and the kwashiorkor. So kwashiorkor, it is some kind of the nervous and some fleshy legs and fatty livers, and some characters will be dominated. And one more thing, the proteins, already we told that the proteins, the folding or the bonding is in a regular manner. If the protein bonding or the protein folding is misplaced, means if it is in misfolded leads to the disease. So in general, the misfold of the protein leads to the Alzheimer's disease. So Alzheimer's disease, the beta amyloid protein molecules, so these are aggregates in together, and it leads to the damage of the nerve tissues or the nerve cells. So and it leads to the memory loss of the particular person. So this is called the Alzheimer's disease. So this is the protein folding, and all these plays a very important role in the life processes.
Okay, proteins are the important constant biomolecules which are used for the cell synthesis, cell repairing, like that. Okay.
Yes.
Next, Rajkumar Garu, please enlighten the nucleic acids and their role in the life.
So generally, if you see in any species or in any living organisms, so they mostly their similar properties. That means they show similarities with their parents. Okay, many of the offsprings show their similarities with their parents. If you see human beings also, children show many similarities with their parents. So what may be the reason for this characters, transmission of this character? Okay, so the scientists find out that the reason for the transmission of the characters from parent to progeny, okay, from one generation to the next generation, that is called as hereditary. So that for that hereditary, the molecules or the molecules which are present in the nucleus of the cell are responsible. Okay. So, the nothing but they are chromosomes. So, chromosomes are the responsible species for the hereditary functions, and next upon chemical direct complete analysis of the chromosomes, they finally find out that the nucleic acid which are present in the chromosomes, so they are wholly or solely responsible for the storage of information or transmission of characters. Okay. So, they are only the masters, so they can rule the cell. That means the whatever the information present in that DNA or the nucleic acid, that is given or that is supplied to the other cells, and they are promoted to so do some function or produce some things. Okay. All the things are controlled by the DNA are nothing but nucleic acids only. Okay. So, in the nucleic acids, the main nucleic acids are two types, that is deoxyribonucleic acid, that is nothing but DNA, and ribonucleic acid, that is nothing but RNA. Okay. So, these two are nucleic acids. So, if you see the chemical composition, first let us start with chemical composition and structure, then we will explain about how they work. Okay. So, first if you start with chemical composition, okay, upon complete hydrolysis of this nucleic acid, they have produced phosphate unit and ribose sugar and nitrogen containing base, that is nothing but nitrogen bases. Sorry. Okay. So, complete hydrolysis of DNA or RNA, nothing but which produces sugar molecules and phosphate and that is nitrogen bases. The sugar may be ribose sugar, that is beta D ribose or beta D 2-deoxyribose. So, in case of DNA, it is deoxyribonucleic acid. So, that is why deoxyribose is present. In case of RNA, it is ribonucleic acid, it contains beta D ribose. Okay. In case of deoxyribose, the second carbon is do not having OH group, that is having hydrogen only, compared to beta D ribose, it is having OH. This is about sugars. Next, if you see the nitrogen bases, so it contains 4 types of nitrogen bases. Okay, that is adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. That is DNA contains these 4, and RNA also contains adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. But sorry, adenine, guanine, and cytosine. But in case of RNA, thymine is not present. In place of thymine, it contains uracil. Okay, all these are nitrogen containing bases. So, these nitrogen containing bases further classified into 2 types, that is pyrimidines and purines. Okay. So, purines and pyrimidines, all these are nitrogen. The purines and pyrimidines, these two are in equal ratio. In case of DNA, those two will be in equal ratio. Next, coming to the structure, another one is phosphate. Okay. Totally phosphate unit, phosphoric acid unit, ribose sugar unit, and nitrogen containing bases. So, these are the constituents of nucleic acid. Next, how they construct the nucleic acid. Okay. So, first the ribose sugar will bind with the base, that is nitrogen containing base, or whether it may be purine or pyrimidine. Then it forms a nucleoside. Okay, this thing you can see in the structure, that is nucleoside, which is having the sugar part and nitrogen containing base. And next, if this nucleoside reacts with phosphoric acid, nothing but a phosphate group is attached to the 5' position of the ribose sugar. So, this total unit is called as nucleotide. Okay. So, nucleotide is a basic unit of nucleic acids. Okay. So, this nucleotide, whatever this unit, that is sugar and base and phosphate. So, this molecule is a base for the all the nucleic acids. All the nucleic acids are made up of, are composed of these nucleotides only. So, that is why they are also called as polynucleotides. Just like polypeptides, proteins are polypeptides, just like that the nucleotides are also called as polynucleotides. Sorry, the DNA or RNA, the nucleic acids are also called as polynucleotides. So, they containing nucleotide unit. Okay. Once the nucleotide unit is formed, then those nucleotide units, 2 to 3 nucleotide units will combine to produce a chain. chain like structure, that is polynucleotide. So in the formation of that nucleotide chain, so that thing you can see in structure. So the phosphate unit, so which is there on one, so the 5 prime position of one sugar, so this phosphate unit will bind with the another sugar 3 prime position, that is the phosphate is linked to the third carbon OH of the another nucleotide. So okay, phosphate on one nucleotide will bind with the 3 prime position of another nucleotide, and it forms a phosphodiester linkage. So this is nothing but nucleotide structure, linear chain structure of nucleotide. So then this linear chain structure, okay, this is common structure which contain so sugar phosphate backbone and nitrogen bases. So in case of DNA, it is having another structure, that is secondary structure, that is double helix structure. So two nucleotide chains, two chains are folded with each other, okay, in a helix type manner to form a double helix structure. But whereas in case of RNA, that is only single stranded structure. So this is about the structure of nucleotides, that is nothing but nucleic acids, RNA and DNA.
Okay, sir. Very recently we heard a word DNA tests in the forensic labs. What is the need of DNA tests? What we can know from the DNA tests?
Okay, good question. So DNA test is so best thing to identify some other criminal cases are so to confirm whether the child, who is the parents of the child. So this is confirmed by DNA test. So we already known that the fingerprints of one person may not, that means are unique for particular person. So any two persons will not have same fingerprints. But in recent years, so there is a possibility of making surgery of the skin and replacing their fingerprints also. So for that purpose, so the DNA test is using, which cannot be altered, okay, which cannot be manipulated. So I have told you that the information is stored on DNA. So that information actually is stored in the sequence manner. That means what are the sequence of nitrogen bases are arranged on the DNA. Okay, that is the sequence is unique for each person. Okay, the nucleotide bases. Okay, nucleotides are arranged in a manner. So that bases, what are the bases present on the nucleotide? So they are arranged in a sequence manner. That particular sequence is very specific for particular person. Okay, no two person will have same DNA sequence. Okay, it is impossible. So that's why if you test any cell of that person, that means but that may be from hair or blood or skin. So if you analyze the nucleus and you find out the sequence of the DNA, okay, you can say that if the sequence is matches with the parents, that means so from parents to progeny the characters that get transferred. That means the DNA sequence also some similarities, some coincidence. That means so not exactly same sequence will be there, but compared to parents, the children of the parents, okay, will have approximately more 60% similarities to their parents. Okay, if the DNA sequence is matching, so then you can say that they are their children. Okay, like that. So that's why it is also called as DNA fingerprinting.
Okay, sir. Okay. Now, Mohan Babu, what are the enzymes? What is the role of enzymes in biological process?
Yeah, so enzymes. Already we told the enzymes plays a very important role in the biological processes. So actually enzymes are nothing but enzymes are proteins only, and all enzymes are the biocatalyst. Catalyst, we know that the catalysts. What is catalyst? So the catalysts are the chemical substances which enhance the rate of the reaction, but they don't alter in the reaction. So that means the enzymes plays a very important role in the biological processes, like conversion of the one molecule into the another molecule, means the from complex molecule into the simpler molecule. The enzymes means plays very important role in this process. So actually these enzymes, the enzymes are very specific in the sense these enzymes are specific for the specific task. For example, one kind of enzyme does not perform the another work. For example, hydrolases. So hydrolase enzymes, these are performing only the hydrolysis, and some transperases. So transperases, these performs only the transfer of some moieties or transfer of some molecules, transfer of some groups. So these are the specific. Same thing. So here the enzyme, actually the enzymes acts as a receptors also. In drug chemistry, the enzymes acts as a receptors, means drug receptor interactions. So due to drug receptor interactions, some the excess production of the some neurotransmitters, other some chemicals will be seized, means it will be stopped. So here the mechanism of the drug receptor or the drug substrate and the enzyme is this one. So actually here the enzyme is having the active site, means the enzyme is having the specific active site, and it only the specific substrate or the specific ligand will be inserts into the this active site. So here this substrate active site of the enzyme, and here is the next in the next step it is having the 3 or 4 steps. The first step is it is occupying the substrate is occupying the active site, and the second step is it is forming the enzyme and substrate complex, and in the third step the substrate is converts into the product, and in the fourth step it leaves the products is leaved from the active site, and the products will be separates from the enzyme active site. So these enzymes are these enzymes means in regular way, in for example in the digestion of the food, or the any food materials. For example, if you take the starch, so starch is converts into maltose in the presence of amylase. In the presence of amylase enzyme, it converts into maltose, and in the further step the maltose converts into glucose, and this glucose is very essential for the means cell growth, or means energy, means energy supply for the cells. And next the fats. So fats are converts into the fatty acids in the presence of lipase. And next the protein. If you take the protein, so in presence of pepsin and the trypsin, so these two enzymes are acting on the proteins, and they converts into the amino acids, and these the individual amino acids supplies energy to the particular metabolic processes. So these are the enzymes. And some other enzymes also there, DNA polymerase. So DNA polymerase, this enzyme it is joins the one polymer strand, means the polynucleotides, right? The DNA is a polynucleotide. So one nucleotide and another nucleotide is joined by the DNA polymerase, and it converts into the strands, double strand. So this is the in such a manner the enzymes plays very important role in the biological processes. And in these plays very important role in the cell signaling also. Cell signaling means the communication between the one cell to the another cell. So in the nerve system, the one cell, the particular message is received from the nerves into the central nervous system, and the these nerves, the message is passed to the the rest of the body from the nerve cells, right?
Okay, sir. That is, enzymes are the biocatalyst. These catalyzes the biochemical reaction. One particular enzyme catalyzes one particular biochemical reactions. That means one particular action is obtained from the living being by one particular biological catalyst activity. Okay, and Rajkumar garu, most frequently we are visiting the doctors. Doctor said that any disease, it is due to the vitamin deficiency. Okay, what is the vitamin deficiency? Okay, what are the vitamins?
So the vitamin, so the word vitamin actually derived from the word the vital amine, okay, that is, it is vital for living or growing, but it requires only a small amount, but without this it may lead to many disorders, okay. So they require in very small amount, but they lead to the loss, that means the unavailability of these vitamins may lead to different diseases, okay. So but actually the vitamins get converted. So vitamins may be classified into generally two types. So they are fat soluble vitamins and water soluble vitamins, okay. Fat soluble means, so the vitamins which are A, D, E, K, okay, they are called as fat soluble, and the vitamins B complex, the complex vitamins in B and C, they are called as water soluble vitamins. Okay, so I have given you the list. So the list of vitamins and their sources and the deficiency diseases is given here. So the list of vitamins. So the vitamin A is commonly known for us. Okay, the vitamin A, it is available in fish liver oil or carrots and butter and milk. So this is heavily available in carrots and milk, and the deficiency of vitamin A will cause us night blindness or xerophthalmia, night blindness and xerophthalmia. The xerophthalmia means it is the hardening, the corona, eye corona will get hardened. That means, so the eyes will
Dryness.
be brittle, dryness of eyes takes place. So this is about vitamin A. So if you go for vitamin B, so vitamin B have different complex of vitamins. So they are B1. If you first see about B1, so it is also called as thiamine, and it is available in milk, green vegetables, cereals, most probably cereals. Okay, so our deficiency disease is beriberi disease, which causes retarded growth. Okay, so this is most available in cereals. The polished rice, if you take polished rice, you will not get this type of vitamin. And next for B2, that is nothing but riboflavin. Okay, riboflavin, it is available in milk, egg, all other things. Okay, so it is deficiency of this riboflavin will cause us, so the mouth, so that means the corners of the mouth will cause us bleeding and other dry skin like that. Okay, so next go for B6, that is nothing but a pyridoxine. So pyridoxine is a B6 vitamin which contains which is readily available in yeast, milk, egg, yolks, cereals and gums. Okay, grams, nothing more. So its deficiency causes pellagra or anemia. Okay, next for cobalamin, vitamin cyanocobalamin, that is nothing but vitamin B12. So it is available in meat, fish, egg and curd, and in our body the bacteria which is there in the gut will produce this one. So next, with the deficiency of this vitamin B12 will cause us anemia, nothing but the deficiency, RBC will deficient hemoglobin deficiency. Next for vitamin C, that is ascorbic acid, it is available in citrus fruits and amla and green leaves. So the deficiency causes scurvy disease, that is nothing but bleeding from gums. Okay, next vitamin D, calciferol. So it is readily available from sunlight. When you expose it to sunlight, the fat which is there in our body will get converted into vitamin D. Okay, the deficiency will cause us rickets, that is nothing but so weak bones. Okay, next vitamin E, that is readily available in vegetable oils, it is nothing but tocopherol. So this is deficiency causes muscular weakness and sterility. Okay, next vitamin K, this is readily available in green leaf vegetables. Okay, vitamin K, it is also called as, so it is it plays the main role in the clotting of blood. Okay, so deficiency causes increased time for blood clotting. Okay, so this is about the vitamins and the deficiency.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we are coming to the end of the program. In this overall program, we are discussed about the biomolecules, what are the roles of the biomolecules in the life system, life cycle. Okay, thank you, sir. You are explaining a very valuable message to the students and our DD viewers. Thank you very much.